Battle Unwon, Alive and Lived. Summary. Daemon loses his life in the Battle of God's Eye but wakes again. Warning. Is critical of Viserys I and Rhaenyra. Definitely not friendly to the Greens either. Written and read by Neria. Chapter 1. Daemon. As Daemon stood in front of the heart tree and stared at its bleeding wounds, marks so callously made by his blade, he could not help but bitterly curl his lips at the similarities. The old, mangled tree stood eternally bleeding and alone in a castle hollowed out by war and time, yet still unflinching as new wounds were added by an uncaring hand. He felt the tree's wounds as if his own, some still bleeding, some scabbed over, some even scarred over, yet all still aching. He felt that gaping hollowness of Harrenhal in his very soul. His heart an empty shell, bruised and stomped on so many, many times, and then rendered asunder into a million tiny pieces, only for them to be then set aflame, turned to nothing but ashes. Was his heart even a shell anymore? He felt nothing but a gaping emptiness in the center of his chest. Daemon lowered his head and closed his eyes, so very tired. He felt as if he lived 100 lifetimes. He felt as if he lived too long, did too much, and yet somehow never enough. Somehow he was never enough. He took a deep, shaky breath and tried not to think of the final betrayal. The final betrayer. His queen. His wife, his niece. His jaw ached from the effort not to scream. The one person that he loved unconditionally since the moment she had first drawn breath. The one he had believed loved him in turn. First, she had ordered him from her side, and then madness had possessed her, and she had ordered him back in the same breath she ordered the death of the other dragon riders. In the same breath she assured his own death. A humorless chuckle escaped him. He would have been overjoyed that she wished to have him by her side, if only it was not jealousy. If only it was not madness that guided her actions and rid them of all allies, of all hope of winning this accursed war, of his children surviving it. Oh, how like Viserys she turned out to be. Both sending him from their side when all he ever wanted was to protect them. Both putting their trust in anyone but him. Both believing the worst of him. Both betraying him. He shook his head harshly and walked away from the tree. In the end, it fell to him to clean up the mess their lack of faith in him had wrought, and the ever-reviled rogue prince would do his duty. Whatever may the history remember of him, let it be that he died for his queen, securing her reign, securing her life, and ridding the Riverlands of the plague that was the Kinslayer. And in doing so, let him give Vhagar the honorable death she deserved, rather than the shameful existence the Kinslayer reduced her to. Would that he could erase the Kinslayer and his very name from the history, so the presence of his name would not taint the names of Vhagar's previous riders by mere association. Would that Vhagar's last acts were not the burning of defenseless villages. Would that she lived her last years as they did in those happier days when Laena was her rider, traveling the known world and racing through the open skies with Caraxes. Would that it would not fall to Caraxes to bring an end to his once faithful companion. He closed his eyes in pain. Would that Laena never died. His beautiful wife, full of light, full of fight, full of love. She had believed in him, in them, and paid the ultimate price for it. He had meant to show her the world, to give her the moon. He had settled for Pentos when she had given him their girls, and they became his world. It had not been enough, though, and his desire for a son had cost her her life, and with her death the light went out of the world. His unseeing eyes watched the sun slowly move across the sky while he stood in the godswood, contemplating the many ways he failed his wife and his daughters. The days seemed to pass away as Daemon remained lost in his memories, until a rumble of thunder startled him out of his black thoughts. If he had any doubts of its origin, Caraxes' happy thrill in response immediately put them to rest. Vhagar. He made to leave the godswood before pivoting and returning to the weirwood. He had put 13 bloody gushes in it. It would not do to leave without recompense. Daemon knelt in front of the tree with a glare and bared his arm in defiance. He slashed a shallow gash in his forearm and let the blood drip on the ground. As he got up after watching the gnarled roots drink it up, he spoke with venom. "My blood for yours. Make of it what you will." He turned sharply, and as he walked out of the godswood, he was smiling. It was time to meet his death. It was time to meet it out in turn. Daemon was eager for battle as he climbed atop his faithful bloodworm. It would not be long now. The dragon was eager to play as well. He did not yet realize that this would be the final game they would play together. Caraxes rode in triumph as he leapt into the air, while Vhagar was still collecting herself, issuing a mocking challenge. Many a race started the same. Yet this time, Vhagar responded with a vicious snap that sent a spike of confusion through Caraxes. Daemon sympathized. There had been a time, not long ago, when he would not have believed that Vhagar or her riders could ever mean him harm. Yet the time was gone, and the Kinslayer now infected the mind of the great she-dragon. It was time to end it. And so the battle raged. It was with triumph in his heart and a smile on his face that he leapt from Bloodworm's back, Dark Sister pointed downward, unerringly piercing the Kinslayer's single shocked eye. It was with a laugh that he was thrown off Vhagar's back as she let out an agonized shriek and tumbled towards the lake. Daemon fell through fire, through water, and into darkness. And Daemon was free. End of chapter 1. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one. Bye!